So for those of you that are new to the session, my name is Croix. I'm the CEO and co-founder of NIFTIT. We're like a Microsoft Office 365 and SharePoint consulting agency. We're based in New York, but we also have branches in Vietnam and Hong Kong. And we organize a few events. I speak to a few events. And I've decided to run this series of Office 365 introduction webinars so that way we can get acquainted to some of the tools that are offered within Office 365. So you can find my contact information right here in case you have any other questions, in case you want to follow up off the line, feel free to reach out to me, no problem. So a few numbers about the company. Like we have about 35 people right now. We're dealing with 100 clients. And I will say that in the context of Power BI, we have done a few successful implementation of the tool. I think it's if it's the first time that you're attending or you haven't ever touched Power BI, this is going to be a great session for you because there's going to be quite a bit of the things that we're going to cover during the demo, and hopefully that people will find that useful. All right, so just to make sure, today we're going to talk about Power BI, and I'm going to cover basically introduction. From what I'm reading, few people haven't touched it yet, so I'm going to really cover down the role of the enterprise BI, the different tools and licenses that are used within Microsoft Power BI. And then we're going to drill down a few of the features like data refresh, the Power BI API, how you can publish things to SharePoint, because obviously my background is in SharePoint consulting and development. And we're going to spend, I would say, half of the session doing a little demo, and then obviously a round of Q&A. So this webinar session is definitely addressed for power user, people that are business analysts, and overall IT too. I think that you will find ways that you can leverage the Power BI tool in order to improve productivity at work and run up some reports. So what is the role of enterprise BI? So I would say that usually it's to collect, organize, and analyze a large amount of data. And once you have that data, what you want to do is get actionable information out of it. What are our sales this month? Why are we performing better this month? Are the latest expense that we've done on new materials are productive enough? Is the return of the investment being performant? So really, once you get that information, once you get those actionable information, that allows you to keep the information transparent across the organization, across some partners and clients, obviously too. And the overall goal is to improve the efficiency of a system, of a team, of the entire organization at the end of the day. And the way it's been accomplished typically and traditionally in the corporate BI environment is that you'll get the data utilizing people that have some kind of IT pro background, development background, in order to build out those reports, like the dashboard, the scorecard. The business user may know what it relates to, but typically they have a degree of extrapolation between them and the data itself. It's hosted in database, in file storage, in data warehouse, and they have to go through certain amount of step in order to get to their reports. The goal of Power BI is basically to enable self-service BI. That means that the end user will be in charge and will be a main contributor to the report itself. Basically, the role of IT now is to support the data, its archiving, and its basically live on the system. And then after that, the end user will be able to grab the data and perform a bunch of reports depending on their needs. So the Power BI itself, it's basically different component. There's going to be the cloud services, there's going to be the desktop application, the mobile application, but all of those tools are there to resolve one of the common requests, which is basically enable self-service business to the end user. So that way they can take control of the information and not necessarily depend on technology staff or database administrators. So when it comes to Power BI, you're going to have access to three main layers. You're going to have to use Power BI's desktop. And this is a free application that Microsoft released. So all you need to do is go on your browser and click download Power BI, and the desktop application will be free. It allows you to connect and build the reports. Then you have the Power BI web app or the cloud base, and that you will have some of the features for free, and I will demo and I will explain that in the license slide. But typically, the most enabled features will be under the pro version. And what you can do, you can build a little bit, but it's really there for like viewing and sharing the dashboard and reports that you're building on Power BI. And finally, you will get the Power BI mobile application. So same thing here, it's available on Android, on the iOS store. And what you can do is, again, view, share the information, and it's a free application. All right, so what we're looking at right now, it's straight up from the Power BI pricing page. And it's all the features that are enabled when you get the free account, right? The main difference is going to be the data capacity between a free and a pro account. So like a free account will get 1 gigabyte per user, whereas the pro account, which is market at under $10, like $9.99, I believe, in North America, United States, will allow you to get 10 gigabyte per user. But you're going to notice that all the features right here are enabled for both sets of users, whether it's the free version of the pro version. So you're going to be able to create, view, and share your personal dashboards. You're going to be able to author via the Power BI desktop, obviously because it's free. You're going to be able to do search or explore the data with natural language. So it's using kind of like the same engine that called Tana in the background, so that you can really ask questions, get results out of your data set using something that is not like queries and a little bit more natural. You're going to be able to access your dashboard on mobile device. Well, that's again because the application itself is free. You're going to be able to consume data coming from Content Pack. And I will show you that during the demo. It's a very cool features where there's already all those kind of different services enabled on the Power BI web app. And all you need to do is connect to that specific service, and it will retrieve and build the report for you. So you get like in few clicks, a Google Analytics, for example, report built out for you. You're going to be able to import, get data using the Power BI desktop application and publish that to the Power BI web app cloud with the publish to web feature. Now, the pro features, now it's going to be definitely different in terms of the data refresh and the collaboration aspect. So in terms of data refresh is how often do you get the data to hit back your report, so that when you're sharing a particular dashboard or report, like the information is fresh to the end user, right? And so for the freemium version or the free version, you get like daily refresh on your content. You also have a limit in terms of the streaming data that you're able to perform. So the limit is set as 10,000 rows per hour. And obviously on the Pro version, it's quite a bit more. It's 1,000,000 rows per hour. You're going to be able to consume live data source, access on-premise data using data connectivity gateway. I think that's a very interesting topic. I'm going to cover that in the next slide, but what it entitles to is basically being able to connect to the data that already exists within your enterprise organization. So if you have like a SQL server, if you have like an Oracle server that is sitting within your environment, within your cloud-based environment, or even like on-premises environment, you're going to be able to use a gateway to connect to that data and being able to retrieve that data so that you can share it and consume it over the web. And then here are restricted features for the Pro version, things like collaborating using groups on Office 365 for like permissioning, obviously. Not all the reports are available across the organization, so you might want to secure some of those reports, and that will need the Pro version. Being able to create and publish organizational content pack. So once you create certain reports, certain data sets, you're going to be able to share that data set to other people within the organization. That means that they can create their own reports, their own dashboard using the data that you're packaging for them. And things like, control data access for like at the row level. So some of the database, for example, will provide that type of features that will be only available for the Pro version. All right, so I touched base on the data refresh, and you already have out of the box within your Power BI environment some data refresh. And so when we're using the terms data refresh, it really triggers down to 4 particular items. There's going to be like the visual container refresh, and that's basically the ability to refresh a particular view, a particular report, and that is immediate. So once you do a refresh on those containers, it will go and pick up the information and directly refresh the report. At the tile refresh, which is like at the dashboard refresh, you get a 15-minute increment that is automatic. Or again, you can set up a manual refresh of the data, like just clicking on the refresh button, which I will show in the demo. And then the model of the data refresh is available via 2 ways, via schedule. And so that's depending on whether you're on the Pro version or the free version, or again, you can set it up manually. And so for on-premises data, we have to use the gateway in order to set the schedule of the refresh. Right? So that will be something that we'll approach in the next few slides. And then the package refresh, that's another thing too, where if you're connecting to OneDrive or SharePoint Online for accessing files, this will be done hourly, or you can obviously do, again, a manual refresh on that data. So how is the data refresh when you need to access data that is sitting on an on-premise database and being able to publish it to the cloud so that you can collaborate with colleagues and partners? You're going to need to install something called like the Power BI Data Management Gateway, and that is installed on premises. It's a little tool, it's a little downloads. I will show you where it stands in the demo, but once you download that, you're going to need to install it on your on-premises environment, whether it's on the same server than the database, or whether it's a server nearby that is within the on-premises environment. You're going to have to install that and set up the connection to your database so that way this service can push the data out to the cloud. And once you do that, yeah, like you're going to be able to do a schedule refresh right here. It's an example. I will cover that during the demo, actually. For the management gateway, you can keep your data fresh by connecting to your on-premises, right? You don't need to move. The interest right here is that you don't need to move your whole data set to the cloud in order to beneficiate from the power of Power BI. You can also query large data sets. Some of the data that you have in-house might be stored in large CSV or Excel file or MS SQL database. So again, here is the idea of utilizing what you already have, what is already existing within your organization, to connect to it and get the report out of it. And I will demo that. All right. So there are some consideration, though, at the minute in terms of where to install and how to install the data management gateway. In the scenario that you need to connect to on-premises data, you might want to refer to the two links that I've put on this slide right here. And this is really talking about like the minimum requirements for the machine where you're going to install the data management gateway, where to install it, whether you want to set it available at all time or available only when a computer is set up. So this is the idea of personal versus enterprise gateway. On the personal level, basically only the user that set up the gateway will be able to access the data. The enterprise gateway will allow you much more flexibility. That means that you're going to be able to access the data across the organization, and it provides also the ability to do row-level security. So that means that if certain user query the same table, they might not see the same data than another user. So yeah, like really important, I'm going back to this slide, like those two links right here, it's really going through basically all the steps that are needed in order to configure and install the data management gateway. Just don't go ahead and download it and just quickly install it, you know, without reading those documentation. You might find yourself in a little interesting situation down the road. So that will help you out depending on your organization, depending on the data that you're wanting to query to set up the right requirement for your team. A really great feature too is going to be related to like the streaming data set. And this is working actually with, you know, Azure database services. So what it enables to do is have live data, live streaming of data. So if you're connecting to an Azure database, one that is hosted on, you know, the Azure cloud services, what you can do is by setting up a REST API, being able to directly query this information and have live feed of the data. So here there's no refresh, it's instantaneous. That means that if there's anything happening on that database, you will see it directly. So you think about dashboard, you think about a control center where you can set up a Power BI report that connects to a live data stream and basically being able to see the activity of your data right on the spot. And I'm going to show you one of the reports that I've built using that feature. All right, so if there's dev in the room or like IT pros, if you need to connect your Power BI to any tertiary business application, just know that there's a REST API. It's using OAuth 2.0 in order to connect to the data set. And you're going to be able to set up some of the calls to get data sets, for example, get the retention policy, update the table, delete rows, add rows, get groups. So all of that stuff is available via an API. So if you need to build a tertiary application or connect with an existing application that you have, you just know that those features are available via an API. And I put in the slide, which will be shared, the link to a few of the resources that will help you get started on that front. And before we jump into the demo, if you're using SharePoint alongside with your Office 365 subscription, just know that you're going to be able to share your Power BI reports directly into SharePoint. There's a published tool that is available on Power BI so that it lets you preview the report on SharePoint pages. And final note, if you're wondering, because I'm not going to be able to show you how it looks like, but if you're wondering how it looks like on the mobile, it's pretty much going to look like the web application. Once again, it's an application to download. You'll need to register using your Power BI account or your Office 365 account, and you'll be able to access to the view of your reports via your mobile device. All right, so we're going to do a little demo, and I'm going to pause for a minute or two just to check if everyone's following, if there's any questions so far. If not, we jump straight into the demo. All right, well, if everyone is good, then we're just going to jump into the demo. If you have any question, of course, feel free to put them into the chat. I will monitor them as we speak and as we do the demo. But I'm going to show you a few interfaces first. So the first one is the Power BI desktop application, which I already installed. Like I said at the beginning of the demo, all you need to do in order to access that is to go and just type, download Power BI and go to that link right here, and you'll see the desktop, Microsoft Power BI desktop right here, and just download that. Once you have it downloaded, you can open it. I'm going to show you the interface really quickly before we get into the demo. So I'm already connected right here. This is my credential. If not, there will be like a little sign up form right here where you can enter your credential. Obviously, again, you need to have registered an account with Power BI or have an Office 365 account where the subscription allow you to use Power BI as a service. But once you do that, I'm going to close that right here. You're going to notice that it's pretty much your typical like Microsoft Office type of layouts. You get the tabs up here, and then you're going to get access to the report, the relationship, and the table view or like the data view right here. So that's for the desktop application. This is where we're going to build our report. Before we jump into that, I'm going to show you the application and how it looks like for the people that are on the web, and they're pretty much going to have access to this layer right here. Just going to bring that over right here. Same thing. Once you connect, you get access to this interface, and right here you're going to notice that I already have a report up. I'm going to be able to access like all the different dashboards that I have created, all the different reports right here that I have created over time, and being able to take a look at the data set right here. Okay. In terms of the downloads, so for the data management gateway, for example, it's going to be available right here under the download section, this little icon right here. And so again, a shortcut if you want to download the desktop is right here. The data gateway is going to be right here. And then all the BI for mobile, BI for Excel are going to be available right here. So all it is just a link. It goes and download the stuff for you. Okay. Now, let's go into the Power BI desktop. And the goal right here just to give you an overview, is that we're going to analyze some of the free data that are found on the web that is related to like Airbnb booking from 2015 in the New York area. So this is going to allow us to play with quite a bit of data. Or I did, the last demo I did one about like Marvel Comics, characters, but here all I did was going to the, to this link right here, which I put in the slide too. And it's basically like free data set. And the one that I took was the one related to our Airbnb right here. So once you download that, and I have it up right here, I'm just going to open it up before we put it into Power BI. It's just a CSV file with a bunch of data. I don't know how much actually. There's about 20,000 records right here. And this is going to be the data sets that we're going to play with today. So I'm going to close that, go back to my Power BI desktop. And here, the first thing that we want to do, because we don't have any data, is to pull data. So you're going to notice that you can get data from Excel, from a web services, from a SQL server, but in our case, we're going to get the file from a CSV file. So I'm going to open the Airbnb data set. And before we actually load it in, it's going to give us a preview of the tool. So right here, this is like the different columns that it's going to create right here. The delimiter is comma because obviously it's a CSV file. And then I can preview that and see, well, everything looks quite good. So I'm just going to load that. If you need to do any modifications, so for example, like label, business calculation, data type change, what you need to do is go right here and edit the query. You can also see the data view right here, and then click edit query. It goes to the same page. But right here, for example, like let's say that I don't want that, ampersand right here. So I'm just going to edit the query, and we're going to do some modification to the table itself. So every modification that you do consists of steps. So every time that you do one modification, so let me do that. I'm going to change that to room type, for example. It's going to set the rename column. And I'm going to do another one, room ID, for example. All right. I changed the label of the table, and it added another step. If I wanted to go back and revert the changes that I've made, all I need to do is just remove the step right here, and it will go back to where it initially was. So for example, min stay, I'm just going to put a space right here, for example. You can notice that you can change the type. So for example, last modified, if I wanted to change the type, right now it's set as a date time. And it is a date time, but maybe I want to do like a date time and time zone. And right here, what I will get extra is the time zone aspect. So you get all those different type of data that you can change your data columns to. But in this case, you can see that Power BI is smart enough that he picked up the right type for each of the columns that I have presented. Maybe this one right here, which it looks good. All right. So I got all this data. I'm actually going to set it back to date time right here. And once I've done all those modifications, the interesting part is going to be the report view. And this is, as an end user, the most exciting part, is that I'm going to be able to tap into the data, build all those kind of reports, and being able to get it done with in a matter of seconds. So the first thing that we're going to take a look at, for example, is maybe the count of stays per borough. So to do that, I'm going to select my little chart column right here, and I'm going to take it like this right here and expand it. And I'm going to set the axis, the group as the ball, and I'm going to try to find like a unique delimiter. So I'm going to take like the last modified right here as the value. And so very quickly, you can notice that we've come up with a visual representation of which borough gets the most stay or booking on Airbnb, right? You're going to be able to sort those via the ellipsis right here. So sort by borough, so it will take it just alphabetically or just by the count right here. So right here, we can see like lots of people staying in Manhattan, not that many in Staten Island. What you can do with that is visual filter. So for example, if I wanted to maybe see only 3 specific boroughs, like the Bronx, Brooklyn, and the Queens, I could select that up from the filter options right here, and it will automatically get me the information sorted out properly. I can also go ahead and do some of the UI or the presentation layer enhancement by selecting data colors, for example. So right here, all of my data have the same color, but I want to have different colors for each of the boroughs. So I'm going to go right here, show all, and I'm going to be able to select a different color from Brooklyn to the Queens to the Bronx. Right here. I'm going to be able to do things like set up borders, changing the name of the report itself, the position of it. So right here, maybe it's bookings per borough. Okay. And I'm going to be able to bring the data labels right here. So that way we know where we're standing from. Again, very quickly, we get this report. One thing that might be interesting too is to check out the overall satisfaction of the user. And so to do that, I'm going to bring in my funnel right here. So I'm just going to bring that up right here. And from here, I'm going to group this by overall satisfaction. And same thing, I'm going to count the last modified, which is basically like 1 for each entries, 1 for each booking of our data set. And right here, we're going to notice that people actually really like staying in the New York area. Lots of 5, 4.5, and 4s. We got a lot of blank entries too. So if we want to remove that, once again, you can go to the visual filter and basic filtering. And I want to select everything but the blank value right here, so that it's a lot more readable. Now, the cool feature of the Power BI is basically the interactive filtering. So those 2 reports, because they're on the same page, they're automatically linked between one another if there's relationship between them. And so right here, if I want to see like, well, out of the 5s, which borough have the most of them, you notice that it instantly filter on the left side report and get me the aggregated value for the 5-star or 5 liked type of bookings. And you can do that. It's reversible too. So if I click on Brooklyn right here, we're going to notice like, well, we got 2.3 hundreds of likes for that specific space as 5. And then same for Queens right here and Bronx. All right. So that's instant filtering right here, right on the spot. You can get an idea of how the data will look like in different segments. Now, you get access to all those different visualization on the top right-hand side. So I'm going to do a few more for us so that we get a really good feel of what is available with Power BI. So let's take a look at the pie chart right here. What we're going to do is put it up right here on the right corner, the left corner, I'm sorry, and get the bedroom offered in the overall year of 2015. And so what are the accommodations? So I'm going to take the bedrooms right here. Oops. So I need to click on the report first. And the bedroom is going to be the legends right here. And I'm going to set the value again as last modified. So overall in the New York area, lots of 1 bedroom to be shared in 2015, lots of 2, and then obviously you get the feel for that. And what are the types of those different ones? Same thing, we're going to use our cluster bar chart. Oops, sorry, just want to do that. You have to click outside, you're going to get our cluster bar chart right here. And what we're going to bring in is the room type right here, and the different values for it right here. So again, out of the entire home, you get the feel now. If I click on this, it will filter and show me the data subset right here. Another cool visualization is the map area. So I'm going to pull that out. And in order to make that work, in your data set, you need to have 2 specific values. One is the latitude and one is the longitude, so that it can go and pick up where that specific item is related to the map. So I'm going to take latitude, just put it in the latitude, longitude, put it into the longitude, and I'm going to use the sizing as basically how many user can each booking accommodate. So I'm just going to put that right here. And so already we can notice that as we extend outside of the Manhattan, Brooklyn area, the circles are getting larger. That means that they can accommodate a lot more people. And maybe it makes sense because it's crowded inside of this area. So you can zoom in. It's using Bing Maps as the generating engine for the map itself. And again, if you need to do any formatting of the data, you can do that with those little controls right here. Okay. Let's take a look at another one. Actually, that's one of my favorite one, is the tree map right here. So we're going to see, well, out of all those different bookings, where are the most expensive booking? Which neighborhood is the most expensive in the New York area? So again, we're going to group by neighborhood. I'm going to get the last modified value right here, and boom, you get that out of the way. So you can see that Williamsburg, Brooklyn, get the highest, booking, and then it goes down the road right here. If you need to filter, so that's quite a bit of information. If you need to filter the information, what you're going to do is basically have utilize the end filtering. So far I've only shown you the basic filtering, but if you need to take the top end filtering, right here I'm just going to select the top end records, and this is by the count of the neighborhood right here. So I'm going to apply the filter, and right here it shows me only the top 10 of the neighborhood that is available. So maybe we should do 20, so it looks a little more pretty. All right, so you get a sense of how to build the report utilizing quick visualization. And now the idea is, how am I going to publish that to my team, right? Like, so far I've only worked on the desktop side of the application, and I haven't been able to share that to a colleague or partner. So first thing you want to do is obviously save this report. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that right here, and I'm going to call that Airbnb. And once I save it, it's going to allow me to publish it. I could have just clicked on that, but it will have asked me to save it before, so it comes back to the same. Now, when I'm publishing it, it's going to ask me what is the destination. And it's basically like all your different workspaces. So I have all those different workspaces available. So I'm just going to select my workspace. And because I'm an Office 365 user with a subscription to Power BI, it's going to publish it instantly to my Power BI Online or Power BI Cloud or web app application. So we're going to go back right here. Now I'm going to refresh this page right here. And if you see the different reports that I have, we should have a new one related to Airbnb right here. Right here. So now the data and the data set is online. So it's no longer on my computer. I'm able to push my changes to the online version of it. But what you're seeing right now, it's the data and the reports that are available online. And from there, I'm going to be able to share it. I'm going to be able to publish it to the web, to download the report, to export it to PowerPoint, all of that fun stuff. So first thing we're going to do is maybe like actually see the report itself, see the edit feature. So same thing from the web, you can actually do some of the manipulation that is available on the desktop application. It's a bit more restrictive too when you go into the advanced feature, but as far as visualization goes, you get pretty much the same feel and features. Now, let's say that I want to build a dashboard out of that, right? I want to have all those different pages and the report into one single view. What I'm going to do is set like a pin visual right here, clicking on the pin icon, and I'm going to create a new dashboard, and I'm going to call that the Airbnb report or dash. And I'm going to pin this one to it. Let's see which one is interesting to. I think this one was interesting. So I'm just going to pin it to an existing one. It's the Airbnb right here. And what you notice is that it instantly created a dashboard right here. I want to save, which is the Airbnb dashboard. So same thing from here, you can edit, you can make things bigger, reorganize the information as needed. And this is where you're going to be able to share that. I need the pro version to do that. I'm on the free version, but you're going to be able to share that with other people within your organization and being able to get collaborators to see that specific data. All right. So we're about time. I'm just curious right now. I'm going to switch back to my chat window and make sure if there's any questions that you guys may have. Okay, so like the question is how to create a dashboard. So to do that, you can't create a dashboard via Power BI desktop. You cannot, right? All you can do here is create reports. The dashboard, you need to be on the online version of Power BI, right? You need to be within a report. So again, I'm going to go back to our Airbnb report, the one that I have created on my desktop via Power BI, and that I have published to the online version. And from there, it's pretty simple. Actually, you click on the pin right here, this little icon right here, on any of the reports that you want. So let's say this guy right here, pin it. And it's automatically going to ask you if you want to use an existing dashboard or if you want to create a new one. And from there, you can create a new one. So new dashboard right here and pin to it. And as you do that, you'll see that new dashboard right here. It automatically created it for you. So hopefully that answered that question, Mayua. Another thing that I mentioned in the slide, and I'm just going to talk about that briefly as questions come up, is the service content pack, right? So I told you like Power BI already enables some of the services, third-party application to connect to Power BI. So we're going to do one right here by get the data. get the services. So I could get files like I did on the Power BI desktop. I could connect to a database, and this is only for Azure SQL database. But here in our case, we're going to connect to a service. And as we speak, and since the last time I've done this webinar session, they probably added a few more. The list keep growing and growing and growing. But in this case, I'm going to do something very simple. I'm going to connect to GitHub, for example, right here. And so you see, like, out of the box, without doing anything, it's going to create a dashboard for you. So all you need to do is select the service that you want, get it now, right here, and set up the information. So once you do that, basically I already have one up from previous demo. Once you do that, what it's going to do, it's build, starting again. Maybe I need to recreate one. Seems like I haven't used those one in a long time. So let's go to GitHub, get it now. Owner of organization of the GitHub. I don't know the repo name. Create that test. Let me connect to a service that I know the credentials. Let's use Google Analytics. GA, where is it? Here, get it now. Sign in. You'll see, like, it's going to ask you your credentials right here. Allow. And if you're able to successfully authenticate to the third-party service, it's going to build out the report for you. Where's that report? It's building it right now. While it's importing the data, you can see it might take a few minutes, depending on the amount of data that you have. Okay. If there's any other questions, I'm taking them. So right here, without doing anything, I didn't have to build a report. I didn't have to connect to Power BI desktop or publish anything. It automatically pick up the data from our Google Analytics service and display it, which is great if you don't necessarily have the time to build those reports and just want to get to the information. So I definitely recommend that. Get data services and try to pull the data. It's absolutely free so far. I'm not even on the pro version, and you get access to all those different services. All right, we have still briefly 8 minutes. If there's anything that you guys would like to cover, any further questions? If not, I go to the recap point. All right, so let's go to the conclusion then. So what we get out of Power BI? Well, first, it's like you've seen in this demo, it's a great way to build out report, dashboard for end user. You don't necessarily need to know a whole lot of coding or anything. It's pretty much drag and drop. And at this point, they're going to be able to gather the information that are needed so that they can be successful in the organization. It really is a rich, interactive way of communicating. I mean, you can see that once it's published, it's available on the web, it's available via the mobile application. So it really grows the way like dashboards and reports are built, but are also shared within the organization. What you want to do too is make sure the key consideration right here is to make sure that you play around with the free version, and then if you want to extend because of limitation of the features from the free version, you want to extend to the pro version, I think that for the subscription fee, it's a good tool. But on this particular account, I have the free version. And I haven't shown you something related to like streaming data. And if there's no question, I actually show you that before we jump off. But if you need to monitor real information, real-time information, it's a great tool. It allows you to do that very quickly and at a very low cost right here. So that's it for this demo. I'm still taking a few questions before we jump off, but if not, I really appreciate everyone's time today. Hopefully this was helpful. There's a few links that help me build out this particular session that will be provided in the slides too. The video is recorded, so it will be shared for those of you that couldn't attend or wants to rewatch it, which is maybe not the most fun, but if you enjoy it or you miss a point, like it will definitely be available. And in any case, if you have any further question, I'd be happy to take them. Email again is kwa@niftit.com. You can find me on Twitter and Facebook. The next session, I believe it's going to be related to SharePoint. So it will be 2 weeks from now. If you guys are interested, I'd be happy to have you guys on the line. And thank you for your time and your attention. I'll talk to you soon.